Welcome to Childcare Rockstar Radio. I am your host, Kris Murray. Childcare leaders around the globe are breaking through challenges, leading the way in innovation, testing new best practices, and impacting children and families in a much more powerful and positive way than ever before. Each week, join me for interviews with early childhood leaders and experts that will leave you inspired to become the next childcare rockstar. Now, let's go. This is Childcare Rockstar Radio, episode 175. Featuring Raj Jana. Welcome back, folks. I am so excited you're here. This is a pretty important and pivotal episode in the journey of what is Childcare Rockstar Radio. I can't believe we're up to 175 episodes, and this one right here with Raj Jana is pretty darn special. Raj is a serial entrepreneur, and he's an incredible young ball of energy for this world. He's a really smart guy and has experienced a lot in his young life, in his 30s, and created a business that is making the world better. I'm very excited for you to learn more about Liberate. It is a health app helping you deal with the stresses and anxieties and mental health challenges of life. And it's a personalized journey to help you dive into getting back to yourself and loving more of yourself, understanding your triggers, and helping you with burnout. And who doesn't want that, especially childcare leaders? So in this episode, I will introduce you to this amazing human. He's got lots of catchphrases that are so inspiring, from be the light from the inside out to be the ripple, to creating a world worth being in, which I find to be very powerful. That's why I named the episode as such. And because I want to be with you along this journey of helping improve our world and create a world worth living in. So I'm excited to introduce you to this guy and have you check out their program. We did have a 10% off code that we reveal at the end, and I'll just share it with you now as well, just so you have that. You might want to jot that down in case you do want to go to liberate.health and check out the app and the reporting and the customization of this incredible tool to help you just feel healthier in your mindset and also in your nervous system. So we dig into a little bit of the science that drives this. The 10% off code for you to check it out is childcare10. Promo code childcare10 at liberate.health, and want you to dive in and learn more about it, because if this tool can be part of your toolkit, and it's going to be part of my toolkit to help us ease the way when we're feeling especially stressed, overwhelmed, and burnout, or triggered in some way, emotionally raw, hurting, or facing challenges with our team or our loved ones or our children. This tool is designed to help. And so I'm going to dive right in without any further ado to the episode and let you meet him. We have a lot in common and talk a lot about entrepreneurship in this episode. I consider you guys all to be education entrepreneurs, whether you are owners, startups in the childcare field, or directors that may aspire to own your own school one day. And this is an entrepreneurial journey and a journey to help heal the world, one leader, one human at a time. So without any further ado, let's dive on in and meet Raj Jana here on the podcast at Childcare Rockstar Radio. Enjoy it. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast. I am very excited to introduce you to somebody that has come into my orbit that is changing lives and doing amazing work in the world of entrepreneurship and mental health. And that's Raj Jana. Raj, how are you today?
Great. It's great to be here with you.
Great to have you. You are the co-founder and CEO of Liberate. And we're going to get into what Liberate does and what your vision and purpose is there. But before we do that, where are you right now? Where are you sitting?
Currently sitting in my childhood bedroom, actually. I am came home to spend some time with my parents. So I'm literally looking at pictures of me from like 4, 6, 8. Like I'm like surrounded by little Raj right now. It's actually kind of funny.
Wow. That dovetails perfectly into my audience because we are child focused
Like,
people.
here, let me just show you. Here's a little, here's like a literally, this guy's looking at me right now. He's just staring down at me, just full on. Like,
Oh my God, I love that. We couldn't have planned that out better.
I
That's
mean, I'm like laughing at the irony of the whole thing right now. It's like
yes,
perfect.
very, very much so. And like geographically, where is your childhood home?
It's in Houston, Texas.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Tell us a little bit about what you do. What is Liberate and or what is your journey and how did you get here?
Maybe I'll start with my journey and then like kind of dovetail into what Liberate does because it's a lot easier to just explain it from like my vantage point.
Okay.
So I've been an entrepreneur for better half of my life. I started out as a petroleum engineer, read the 4-hour work week, made myself like realize that there's a whole world of business and online learning. And so then I started buying courses and having side hustles. And one thing led to another. And my first company was a coffee company, an e-commerce coffee brand that I launched on Amazon and then scaled to basically like all over the internet. And then I sold a large portion of that in 2019 and basically took a little bit of a hiatus because I was burning out. I was in a 9-year relationship that I wasn't proposing in. I was drinking a ton. I was like kind of running from all of my stuff at home to go work as much as I could. And then when work got pulled away, it's like all my stuff came up. My emotions, my dysregulation and at the time, I was kind of just throwing a lot of money, time, energy at the problem. Like I was working with a therapist, I was trying all these different alternative modalities, and I was doing these retreats, and I was going south of the border and working with all sorts of types of healers and all these things. And I felt like I was on this hamster wheel of healing
Mm-hmm.
where I just kept trying all these different things to feel better, but I couldn't. And that was creating a lot of distress. Let's just put it that way, because
Mm-hmm.
it's frustrating when you like when you know there's something off, when you know you like there's like you don't know why you don't feel the way you want to feel. Like you have all the things you want on paper. You've got the successful business, you've got what seems on paper an awesome relationship, you've got everything, but for some reason you just feel this like something off. And I couldn't figure what that out. I couldn't figure out what that was. And then
Mm-hmm.
that led to a breakup and me going on this multi-year journey of trying to understand what self-love was and really coming back to myself and getting back into living a more holistic life. And on that journey is when I met my co-founder, Mike, and we were both sort of scrambling our way into mental health. Like we didn't know what we were doing. We kept trying all these tools and resources and nothing was working. And we both came to a similar conclusion that it doesn't actually matter what the tool is. If you don't know what the problem is, none of them are going to work. And so then that's when Liberate started, really started out as an app and a tool and a resource to help people get clear on what is actually going on underneath those triggers. What is actually happening in your body, in your mind when you're experiencing insecure thoughts? What's like, what are the root causes of your mental and emotional distress?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what Liberate does. We have emotional lab reports. That's our flagship product. And those emotional lab reports take you through a 2-week discovery process to sort of map your triggers and map your emotions and map your psychology and map your life to understand why you are the way you are. And then we pair you up with unique tools that are unique to you and your unique situation so that you don't have to go floundering around for the best books and podcasts. You get something that's data driven and tailored to you.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, how did you guys come to the science of collecting the data that's feeding the app? Not to get too far into it, but I'm just fascinated by because I saw on your website about, understanding better the triggers for your nervous system, for example. So if you're having anxiety, let's say, because a lot of people that listen to this podcast may be dealing with pockets of anxiety. So if I were to go on and work with the app as a new user, how does the app and some of these components of what you do with your evaluations, like kind of just a little bit of the backstory, not to get too complicated or too, confidential. How does that work? Like, how does it dive in and help me understand my nervous system better, for example, around anxiety? Like, let's say I'm having anxiety and I can't sleep.
Yeah, so I'll walk you through an example of what somebody might do if they order an emotional lab report on our website.
Yeah.
Order an emotional lab report on our website. You'll then get a link to download our app. And over a 10-day period, we're going to be teaching you through the app to pay attention to your triggers. Now, I want to define what an emotional trigger is, because I think even an emotional trigger is anytime you experience an emotion that's less than neutral. So it could be an emotion you become aware of. It could be a sensation in your body, like anxiety or depression, or potentially like chronic pain. It could be any type of sensation that you become aware of. That's what we consider a trigger. Now, in the app, once you become aware that you're in a trigger, let's say you get into an argument with your spouse because they didn't do the dishes for the 50th time in a row, and you're like, "Dang it, I asked you for the 50th time, why aren't you doing the dishes? Why aren't you listening to me?" And you have that response. Well,
Mhm.
if you're inside of an emotional lab reporting process, that would be a moment to pull out the app and answer a few questions about what's going on.
Okay.
So you start to collect, okay, what happened? In your own words. Do you feel any emotions? Like, what are they? Do you feel any sensations in your body? What's the core wound that's getting triggered here? Like, if we had to give you five to choose from, like, which one does it feel most like? Does it show up as, are you trying to control the situation? Do you feel like you're fighting, or are you flighting? Do you feel like you're kind of in a freeze right now? We start to
Mhm.
collect a lot of different data points around what is actually happening. And each of these data points are rooted in a different psychological theory. Our entire framework that we're using to collect the data is rooted in a really comprehensive data model that's collecting over 500 different data points. And each of these data points are validated by 12 plus psychological theories. So it really is like, how do we create a good picture of what's happening when you experience stress, when you experience threats, when you experience any level of trigger, when you experience anything that feels anything less than desirable? What's going on?
Mhm.
And so that's
Cool.
what's happening in the app over a 10-day period. And then once you do that, along with your emotional lab report, you get a 90-minute one-on-one emotional mapping session with someone on our team. And that's when we go a little deeper. So then we bring in some of the data you're tracking in your app. We look for trends and we say, hey, look, this trigger that you had with your spouse and this thing that you experienced at work, they're kind of similar in nature. Why don't we start to unpack and go back in time and understand if these are things that have been showing up throughout your life? This pattern of not being heard by another human being, is that something you're familiar with? Like, okay, well, let's go back in time. And so we slowly go back in time to uncover some of the earliest memories, instances, experiences where where you had a similar thread, emotional thread. And then that information is then uploaded into our system, and the system looks for patterns to find the most effective tools for you.
Mm.
And so
Cool.
and that would show up in your emotional lab report that you'd get 48 hours after your session.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that deep dive. Just to start the podcast right out, from the get go. Normally, I don't do that. I kind of walk into it a little bit more, but I'm so fascinated with how you do the work you're doing. I had to dive right in. So let's back
I
up.
love the passion and I love the
Yeah,
curiosity. So please, yeah, any
yeah,
questions
yeah. I'm
around
like
this, I'm in.
super curious. Thank you. So you're a serial entrepreneur. I love that you have that passion around entrepreneurship, as do I. So we share that. And tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. You started out, it sounds like you started out in corporate, and then you have went through this journey as you realized that you were being unfulfilled. What do you love most about being an entrepreneur?
The freedom. Oh, okay. I say freedom, but at the same time,
I
I'm
know.
busier now than I've ever been. So
Yeah,
there's right. Like,
I'm right there.
so like I think when I first went from employee to like my first entrepreneur, that was like the driver. I
Yeah,
loved that I could create a life, like my first company was more of a lifestyle company. So I built this company that was all online. My employees were all online. Like I could be anywhere. I could work from restaurants, from beaches, and that was like, and that's what I desired, that freedom.
yeah.
And now that I'm kind of on my second big, like I would say like my real sole purpose project, I feel like what I love most about being an entrepreneur today is that I get to use my gifts, my talents, my brilliance to help people. And I get to do it in creative ways. And I get to learn more about who I am through this journey of trying to bring something big into the world.
Mhm.
And that is super enlivening. Like I feel like personal growth is such a high value for me. And I don't know of a more growth fueled journey than the journey of entrepreneurship, where you're pushed up against failures. You're doing things you've never done before. You're forced to ask for help. You're forced to navigate the fears and the insecurities and the things that show up when you're building something. And I love it. I live for it. I live for the growth and the feedback I get and the chance to build stuff that helps people and do it with my flair and my in my style. And that feels it's like a entrepreneurship is kind of like it's like my art form. Like I don't know if I would ever be like maybe not, you know, you never know. I'll never be
Yeah.
like a musician or like one of those, you know, but like I do feel like entrepreneurship is my art. And so that's what I love most about it.
Yeah, that's cool. I love your openness. Like you just came to this podcast. We haven't known each other. We met through we met through Mike Klein, and Mike Klein is your co-founder at Liberate. He is my buddy over at Mavericks, which is the mastermind that I'm in currently. I've talked about Mavericks before on this podcast. It's an amazing group of humans.
Yeah.
And so I love your openness, and because we have a lot in common, and it's just feeling really groovy to me because the thing that we really have in common, one of them, I'm sure we'll find more, is that I also was inspired by 4 Hour Work Week.
Nice.
As I was starting this company, the Childcare Success Company, back in 2008, I think it was 2007, I read that book and endeavored to build a lifestyle company, which this company you could argue is that we're a fully remote workforce of 30 beautiful people, and our clients are all, spread around the world. And our services, we provide the coaching in person, but mostly via Zoom and other methods, thanks to technology. So 4 Hour Work Week, Tim Ferriss, love Tim Ferriss. I love that podcast. That's probably my favorite podcast on the planet. And so we have that in common. That's where you started. That's where I started. And now here we are doing the work that inspires us as entrepreneurs to make a difference, for sure.
That book changed so many lives. Like it was kind of like I have so many friends that read that book and somehow, some way found their way into doing kooky things in the world. It's crazy how that book
Yeah,
just kind of like sparked it. It didn't even matter what industry, what field. It just kind of woke up this entrepreneurial bug in a whole generation of humans.
it really did. And I don't even know if Tim knows how impactful that book was. He probably does, but
I'm sure he does.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm going to ask you just like a fun fact about you, or if you want to share more about your superpower or your brilliance. But what if you want to share anything about what you're into on the personal side? What are your interests, family? Tell us more about what makes Raj tick on the personal side.
I'm really I feel like I think I mentioned personal growth and development and expanding. I mean, I'm really passionate about just discovering who I am and like that self-discovery process. I love trying different personal development workshops. I kind of do it on my own time. Like I just travel on weekends to learn about myself and experience different ways to unlock more of me. I think I'm 32 right now, and you know, like in the last few years, I've had a few big kind of relationship endings and transitions, and I've felt like these relationship transition periods are so rich for self discovery. Like, you know, you kind of devote yourself to somebody so deeply, and then like that ends, and now you're just like you're open, and there's such a chance to kind of like recalibrate who you are and really like write your path to like something that's really true to you. And I feel like that's kind of been my passion the last few years is, you know, falling in love and then breaking up and then me kind of like breaking open to more of me and discovering that through whatever I want to say yes to. Like a few years ago, it was Burning Man. That was like the thing I was really passionate about. I went to Burning Man with my co-founder, and it
Yeah,
was awesome and epic. And I learned so much about myself. And then, yeah, so I feel like it's just been this like I say yes to experiences like that
yeah,
you know, force me to grow and learn more about myself. And that's what I'm most passionate about right now.
cool. Yeah. And it sounds like we're going to all be there. I've never been. I mentioned I did a podcast from Hawaii. I spent a month in Hawaii, which was like my dream, a couple months ago, and mentioned that this will be my first Burning Man, hanging out with you guys at Camp Sandwich, apparently, which helping make sandwiches. And I'm excited about it for sure. So saying yes to new experiences and new adventures for sure.
Here.
Yeah. I love that. Love that. And yeah, I also, what these guys know, my listeners, that I went through a big breakup. Somebody I was engaged to, bought this house with 2 years ago. And then it's just been an amazing journey of getting back to loving all the parts of me. And
Totally.
like what you said is exactly true. Like now that I made the space to dive into unlocking new parts of myself and places that were kind of shut down, or places that, weren't feeling maybe as yummy as I wanted them to, or whatever. So diving into that self-growth, 100%, I'm right there with you. Let's talk about burnout. So a lot of folks in the childcare industry have dealt with and are continuing to deal with burnout, professional burnout, personal burnout, and they lose their leaders. Oftentimes, the leaders will go do double duty because they have to cover in the classroom, and then they have to manage the school and figure out time on the weekends or in the evenings to do the work because they can't do it because they're, covering classroom, which is a requirement of schools. They have to operate at a certain ratio. And so if teachers call out and bail, the people that are left have to cover. So it causes a lot of burnout. So how can how can your tool help with burnout? And what are you seeing out there now that we're 4 years post-pandemic? What kind of audiences are you helping with burnout? And just talk more about that as something we've gone through in society in different waves.
Yeah, thanks so much for the question. Burnout's to me like there's a disconnect between our minds, our bodies, and our kind of deeper purpose, right? And it's like when something's off track, it's what creates this dysregulation. And I always like to look at things like burnout, things like health crises, these choice points where we're about to crack is opportunities to try something new, opportunities to sort of take a step back and take a look at what is actually going on, and can we make some changes in our lives to be more in alignment with who I am. And so our tools are designed for individuals that are kind of going through those crisis moments. Like when I was going through my breakup and all that stuff, like that was perfect for me. Like I was going through this period of like a lot of distress actually. Like I was really lost, confused, unsure. I was on rocky footing. I didn't really know who I was. And I wish I had our tool. In fact, Mike and I both, when we started working on this project, we were both coming out of really long relationships. And so it was in that discovery process that it helped us sort of come back to center and really find our priorities and learn ourselves. Because I really feel like when we become connected to who we are and we remember why we are the way we are, what we're passionate about, what made us who we are, I think that's when we can begin to show up into any job role, any professional role with more clarity. And when we have clarity, we can begin to design our lives in the ways we want to. We can have the conversations, we can create the safe spaces for more connection and community. And these are things that I think aid just well-being. I really feel like we in the especially specifically in the US, we just have this culture of really pushing ourselves to our edges. And then when we hit the edge is when we ask for help.
Yep.
I guess what I'm inviting on in this conversation is, you don't wait. Let's start making mental and emotional well-being just like you would go to the gym or anything like that. Like just treat it like fitness, treat it like diet, treat it like anything. Just make it something that's a part of your life. And I do believe our tools can when you sign up for an emotional lab report, like you can sign up whenever you want. Like we have people that can hold space for you, support you any time of the day, on weekends, in the week, during the week, in the mornings, midday, evenings, whenever you're free. The app is all self-service, and we have a lot of self-guided resources for you to do on your own time. And so it is a resource that I wish I had when I was in my crisis moments, and I'd offer it to anybody who's going through a bit of a shuffle up or feeling like they just keep running in circles without really feeling like they're moving the needle forward in the areas of their lives that they want to be moving forward in. So
Mm-hmm. Cool. Do you have a lot of companies or organizations coming in to access the app for a group of people, such as are you working with HR departments or CEOs that are interested in helping their teams get access to this level of support, or is this more of an individual journey that you're seeing it right
At
now?
this point, well, so we have our like emotional lab reports that are individual, and then we also have group cohorts.
Okay.
So we have a group cohort that kicks off every month. So if somebody wants to join, it's a 3-month program. And our offerings are relatively inexpensive. Like the emotional lab report's $199, and then the 3-month program is $600. And it comes with 3 90-minute sessions, 5 group workshops. Like you're getting a lot of human, like it's pretty
Yeah.
affordable for what you get
Yeah.
compared to therapy and coaching and some other like for in the therapy world. Like I mean,
Sure.
paying a lot for my therapies, and that was really the heart behind this mission. Like we wanted to create resources that are affordable, effective, and kind of get to the root and help you begin to move through some of those root patterns that are creating the burnout in the first place.
Hmm.
Those root fears that you're not enough, and therefore you have to work really hard to be worthy. Those root sort of beliefs that get in the way of like, oh my God, like I need to work 10 times harder than everyone else in order to be successful. I mean, these are beliefs that kind of contribute to the burnout. And so when we can get to the beliefs, shift them, you end up creating a more resilient nervous system that doesn't really experience burnout in the ways that you have in the past. And so we have those 3-month programs that are designed for that. And those are done in groups. So you can sign up individually, you can sign up in a group. And if the group's big enough, we do in some ways also offer like more one-off tailored for organizations to do this work together. Like we have a lot of teams that will join cohorts together and do this work together, and it's a great team build. It's a great bonding experience because you're going through the sessions, you're learning a lot about yourself, and then you get to bring it in and talk about it and talk about how you might want to shift culture and make it more holistic and understand each other better. I mean, I've seen me and my co-founders, like we get emotional lab reports and then we'll discuss our triggers together. Even we'll be like, okay, like like how can we create a workspace that's more cohesive and more inclusive, and are there things that we're not talking about because we're kind of like tipping on eggshells around each other,
Yeah.
and so workplace triggers is a big thing that we support with, and I do believe our offerings are really effective for that.
Yeah, because we are spending more time in the workplace than we are at home in general, in terms of our number of hours in our week. So that's, or at least half and half. Talk a little bit about on your main website, on your personal branded website. The headline is "Be the Ripple," and I've talked a lot about helping childcare leaders get more resilient, be more savvy or successful, effective business leaders. Effective is a better word, so that they can be the ripple to the teachers that they employed, and then the teachers will be the ripple to the children and to the families, and it'll go out. Because if we can help the little humans be better learners and more emotionally resilient, then we can help the world, because as the little humans get big, it's just going to ripple out. So what does "Be the Ripple" mean to you, since it's kind of one of your foundational
Mm.
statements?
Yeah, thanks for that. And I very much, we are very much in alignment on like helping children learn the skill sets to not not allow. I mean, I feel like we all let life put its hands on us in some ways. Like growing up, like we came in pure, and then we learned beliefs, we learned our limitations, and then as we get older, like I think the journey for me has been about like unraveling from all that. And so if we can just help kids build that resiliency from the get-go, I think it does make a really big difference. But for me, be the ripple is, I think, in a lot of ways what you mentioned, which is, I used to think that, impact was measured by how many dollars I donated or how many people I employed, and that those are tangible metrics to track impact, if you would.
Mhm.
But how do you calculate the impact of leaving a tip for your Uber driver who was suicidal that day? How do you calculate the impact of saying thank you to somebody or telling somebody they have beautiful shoes when they're having an awful day, and then that person goes on to do something really epic and nice, or give an amazing presentation that rocks it on and just changes the face of humanity. Like, how do you even know
Right.
in a lot of ways like that, like every single interaction you have isn't actually leading to a world worth being in? Like, you just don't know this.
Hmm.
So when I think about the most impactful thing we can do is to wake up to the fullness of ourselves, learn to love ourselves and be that light from the inside out, and then just be that ripple in the world and just be compassionate, just voices for love. And if we do that in our teams, if we do that in our families, if we do that with our spouses, if we do that just in random society, I just can't see a world that isn't rad. Like, I mean, just it's just everybody's being a ripple in the most epic way.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what that means for me is just be the change you wish to see, in the words of Gandhi. And, I think in my own ways, I feel like just be the ripples, shorter and more fun.
Yeah. That's cool. It's funny that you mentioned the tip for the Uber driver because I was going on, let's see, it's at 5 in the morning. 5 in the morning, driving from a random hotel in Tampa to the Tampa airport, leaving we just did a 2-day virtual event that we did for several hundred people. It was really fun. And he was just hustling, this guy. He was telling me his story. He's I think he was from an African country, came here, is an entrepreneur, had a trucking company, lost it all. Now he's driving Uber, struggling, but he's like, I'm reading Napoleon. He tells me, I'm reading Napoleon Hill. He goes, I'm reading Think and Grow Rich like at least twice a year. I'm like, what? Like one of my foundational books, as well as, of course, 4 Hour Work Week.
Totally.
And he just was like such a beautiful human talking about his entrepreneurial struggle, random Uber. So I gave him an extra big tip because to your point is like, I want to help support him on his path
Yeah.
and his journey, And so I love that you happen to say that because I was like, oh yeah, that just
I mean,
happened.
a
So
simple thing just like that, like I still remember my first sale in entrepreneurship, right? Like
same.
it was the first. I still remember, like, I launched my first company. It was an e-commerce coffee brand. Put up a product, never put up a listing before. I fell asleep and I woke up and I had a sale, and it like changed my life. And
Totally.
to this day, I actually feel like it was my mom, but I couldn't see the information because Amazon was weird about hiding customer information. It's like,
Uh,
I don't know who it was, but like, it's just like it changed. It literally brought so much life because I'd spent like 9 months working on
yeah.
putting that product up. And I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. And I had 0 reviews, nothing.
Yeah.
Somebody just bought it because maybe the pictures looked nice, or maybe they were one of my friends. I don't know who it was,
Yeah.
but to this day, like, that changed everything for me. And I think about that moment a lot because, like, it's something so simple. It was like $25.
Right.
This is why, like, every time I have a friend now that launches a company, I always pay full price. Like, I'm just like, I don't want the discount. I don't want anything. I just
That's
want to
right.
buy the product because I want you to feel how much I believe in you, because that belief is worth so much more in impact. Like, the return on energy for that is so much further than any discount I could get.
Yeah.
Knowing that, 3 years down the line, they're like, "Hey, man, like, I so appreciated you paying full price for that product." Like, I needed that at the time.
Hmm.
And, so those little things matter, and I think we can make those choices every day.
Yeah. Completely agree. I remember that moment like it was yesterday. I tell the story a lot. Mine was a little bit of a higher ticket. It was an info product. So I created all summer in my house in this little fourth bedroom with an IKEA desk. And I was just randomly continue work away. And I had champagne in the fridge just in case. And my first sale came through and it was $6.99. And I literally freaked out and I ran downstairs and grabbed the champagne and ran outside and celebrated. My kids were little at that time. They were like 3 and 6. So it's pretty good. Pretty good. Never look back. Never look back. That was it, man.
That's it. It's that
Here
all
we
you need
go.
is one. You just need that first sale to know that you've got a chance, and then it's it.
Yeah.
I
Um,
appreciate this dialogue. I actually hadn't thought about that in a long time, and I'm feeling really excited right now. Like, I'm like, just feel like, yeah, heck yeah, like, that's great. Like,
right. Totally. In terms of the impact, let's talk about who is your domino. So in terms of you're talking about being the ripple, the domino for others. So who had a role to help to play for you that really had an impact on your entrepreneurial journey that really helped you and made a difference in your life?
And I probably have to say my parents were the first, both my mom and dad in different ways. My mom, I remember when I was like 9 or 10, she went all in on Amway and she was going that route. And I just remembered her like just crushing it. And I just remembered her being a boss. Like I was like, yeah, mom, like you're awesome. And I just
Right.
remembered it inspired me to want to be an entrepreneur. And then my dad was always the kind of renegade. He came to the US with $50 in his pocket and just, kind of took a chance on life and worked his way up the corporate ladder. And I think he's always just inspired a lot of faith in the face of fear. And so I think both of those were huge for me starting out. And then I mean, I could probably spend the entire hour talking about just every single person that's helped me. Yannick Silver was a big one.
Oh yeah.
Maverick. I joined Yannick's organization. I saw him talk on stage back in 2016, I believe. I was 24 at the time, and I just had this coffee company that was starting to take off, and I was just selling stuff online. And I went to this event that Yannick used to host called Underground Live. It was a marketing event, and he was talking on stage about combining impact and business and using both to make a difference. And he called it Evolved Enterprise, and he had just written the book. And I was like, man, I need to know this guy because it was like what I was missing. I had like created coming back to like entrepreneurship being about freedom, but here I am like thinking I was trying to be free, but I just created more work for myself.
Yep.
Was like on this hamster wheel and burning out. And I'd forgotten why I was doing what I was doing. And then I got that book. And then I read the book on a plane ride and I was like, oh my God, I have to know this man. And I
Mhm.
emailed him and I was like, hey man, like I'd love to get mentored by you. Like, can you hook it up? And he's like, I got this course if you want to take it. And so I was like, fine, I'll take the course. And then like I really wanted to get mentored by him. So then I went in and like just kind of like crushed the course, made it happen. And I like became like a testimonial for one of his first testimonials.
Nice.
And then I got with him, connected, and at the time he had a organization called Maverick Next,
Yeah.
which it's still there actually.
It's still
And
there. I was actually on a recent Maverick Next mentoring
so
call.
that's how
Yeah.
I got. So
Yeah.
then he was like, "You're 24. You should go check out Maverick Next." And then I joined Maverick Next, and then that's how I got. And then from there, I met all my mentors. I mean, so many human beings in Maverick that like just gave me. I mean, Scott Thompson, he wrote "Liberate,"
Yeah.
our first check when it was like I don't know, like a back of the napkin idea. Like, I mean, I have so many people that I could probably just go on and on that just kept giving me
Yeah.
hand ups
Yes.
instead of handouts. Like they just like, hey, I see you. Like you got potential. Like come on up. Let me help you out. Let me show you a better way.
Nice.
So yeah, I feel super lucky that I've got a lot of those human beings in my life.
Yeah, I love that. I love that story. And if you're listening to the podcast and you know somebody who maybe you have a young daughter or son or little sister, brother, niece that is a budding entrepreneur, definitely send them to Maverick Next. I'll put the information on that in the show notes. Raj, give us the website for if people want to learn more about Liberate and the app and maybe get started with
Yeah.
this amazing platform. Where do they go?
Yeah. Just go to liber8.health. So that's liberate with an 8.health. And you can learn about our programs. We've got the 3-month program. It's called Precision Emotional Healing. And then we've got our emotional lab reports. So you can check out both. And I'd love to give your listeners a 10% code too, Kris. So,
Great.
I don't know what that is yet. So we'll probably put it in the show notes.
Okay.
Don't butcher it. Or maybe we'll make it childcare 10. Does that feel good?
Yeah, that's great. Childcare 10.
Childcare 10. So if you want
Great.
to get 10% off any of the programs or offerings, just go ahead and use that code. And yeah, and that's probably the best way to learn more about us. And if you want to reach out to me personally, I'm super active on Instagram
Okay,
at
cool.
Raj_Jana, and you can send me a message and I'd love to hear from you. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's been a huge pleasure getting to know you today. And we have a lot
Yeah.
of really similar journey points. And although you're about 20 years my junior, and that's cool. And people in our lives. Yeah. And so I love knowing more about you, and this has been a super joy for me. Any other final thoughts for our audience before we close it down?
No, I just super echo everything you're saying, Chris. It's really a pleasure just to be here and and to know that we get to spend more time together in the future is super exciting.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that. And yeah, I just want to encourage everybody, that life can be a lot, and this is why this podcast is. I'm even feeling you, like you just feel like such a sweet human being, and I see how much you're pouring into your audience, and so I'm just grateful for you for taking the time out of your busy work day to create content and share it with your audience and support people in this way. It's really great. So I'm super grateful that I got to be here, and to just be a part of this community is really special. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Can definitely feel the love. And thanks everybody for tuning in once again to Childcare Rockstar Radio. And we'll talk to y'all next time. Take care and God bless. Bye. Thanks, Raj. I hope you liked this episode of Childcare Rockstar Radio. If you did, please leave a review and share it with someone you know to help spread the word to friends in our industry and on social media. Childcare business success is my passion, and I'm honored to be on this journey with you. As a thank you for listening, I've got a new video training that shows you how to add 6 figures or more of new revenue to your program in the next 60 days by improving your hiring and your enrollment systems. To watch my new video, just go to www.fixmyschool.com. That's fixmyschool.com. Thanks. Take care and God bless.